Welcome back to the Grand Solar Minimum channel. Today is Friday the 13th. Today is going to be a little bit different show. We have the Radical Gardener joining us later here tonight. So I'll quickly do a quick space weather update, and then we'll go over what's going on currently with our storm situation. Take a look at solar wind speeds at 454.3 kilometers with a density of 4.8. So things appear to be winding down from this solar wind stream. The area that we were watching last night in the report, 2704, is officially a sunspot number 13. That is our first sunspot in over 12 days, as we were on a stretch of 12 days without sunspots. So an area that we were watching definitely has turned into a sunspot. We'll get a little closer look at that here in a second. Our KP indices are sitting at a 2 with a 24-hour max at a 4. So we were almost quite storm levels again, but not quite there. So, and here is the STO looking once again. The large coronal hole that we had the disturbance from is now almost completely away from Earth, as we see weaker corona area as always across the SDO, but nothing of concern that I see so far, and NOAA is not indicating that we are going to be on any kind of storm alert for this particular weaker corona area. Now let's go ahead and take a closer look at this newly formed sunspot. We kind of looked at it yesterday. It formed over the eastern limb of our star, and now what we saw the beginning of is now turned into a complete active area and now been named a sunspot AR 2704. Keep an eye on that. This one's just slightly above the equatorial region, but not too far away. But again, the sunspots that we've seen so far in this early part of the minimum, they seem to fizzle out. I think we've only had one sunspot that actually went from limb to limb before actually fizzling out. So this one we'll keep an eye on. All right, let's take a look at some weather situations right now. Here's a look at our map of our country. This is not an Easter egg. This is actually all of the warnings and storm watches that we have right now. We've got everything from fire danger to flood to severe thunderstorm to wind to blizzard conditions, icing conditions, floods, flash floods, tornado watches, tornado winds, heavy wind advisories. I'm not sure if I am naming it at all, but I have never seen a weather map so lit up the way it is right now. This is a situation that we have been kind of talking about all week. Pardon me. We were kind of expecting a flurry of action today, and we got more than just a flurry. The intensity of these storms are now picking up. I'm watching right now the radar, and what we're looking at is a huge intensification as we go into the overnight hours. And what really bothers me about this is that these tornadoes are likely to spin up at night. And so be aware, make sure you guys have batteries. Keep a weather radio near. That way, if there is a tornado warning, and for the areas that need to be on the lookout tonight, it looks like Arkansas, Mississippi, western Tennessee, parts of western Alabama, and can't rule out an isolated possibility in the southern Illinois and southern Missouri as well. Let's take a look at the current radar situation, and this is just an overall nasty storm. Let's take a look at the south first, as we see a lot of development right now. Mainly here, this is Arkansas. This is where some of the action is right now as far as tornado watches. We have a huge cell over Fort Smith that's going by right now. Little Rock, just some scattered showers and thunderstorms, nothing serious yet. Let's take a look at other regions here. You take your pick, though. Let's go here to Oklahoma. We see storms racing out of Oklahoma. Snow starting to fall in northwest Kansas and parts of Colorado, Nebraska. It's just incredible on how much different weather that we are looking at right now in all parts of the map. And I've watched several forecasts about what's to come. And here's the area that's really being affected the most here in South Dakota. There's where they're seeing the blizzard-like conditions. As we look at the radar, let me scoot that up so y'all can see that a little better. Sorry about that. And we take a look here. This is where we're seeing the most snow. The area here in the middle of the state is looking about 20 to 24 inches of snow between these areas and here, as the snow has just been continuously falling over and over for the past several hours and will continue to do so overnight. And this is just the beginning of the storm system. As we look back out, let's zoom out a little bit and get the nationwide view and look in the northern states, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Michigan. It's a mix of moisture right now. You've got snow and rain falling, but very heavy in the northern peninsula. And temperatures look like they don't know what they want to do up there. It looks like it's cold to snow for a little bit, then back to rain, then back to snow. But all this moisture that we're seeing right here is coming from the Gulf. And I'll zoom back out just a little bit more and show you what I'm talking about. Let's zoom in down here in Louisiana. As you see back here where these storms are originating, coming through Texas, pulling that moisture right out of the Gulf. Again, I'll move it up for our southern folks there. This is where most of the moisture is coming from here in the Gulf. Very warm waters right now. But the biggest concern for me and many others right now along this line of watches, and especially the flood watches, they've got these up now because they know that there's going to be a tremendous amount of rain to fall. But also up here where we live in western New York, they are forecasting somewhere upwards around 3 to 5 inches to fall, and that's rain. So the radar is current right now going into Saturday. I believe this is started up a little earlier than what GFS was previously indicating. But you see that big band of moisture moving very slowly across the south on Saturday morning. And to the north of this system really gets its act together. The heaviest precipitation, thank God, it looks to be over Lake Erie. So nothing falling on the U.S. at the time. But Michigan, you are definitely going to be seeing the frozen precip, freezing rain. And the concern here in Buffalo is going to be the freezing rain. As we see here, it's clearly in the pink and purple. Now this is Saturday night into Sunday. So starting Saturday afternoon around 2 p.m., we're in a freezing rain event here in Buffalo. And as it goes into the night Sunday, thankfully, temperatures will rise and should cause a brief melt. However, once the temperatures are warm enough for the rain, we are expecting a ton of precipitation here in the Northeast. And once again, as this moves through on Monday, we're bringing cold air back on the back end of this, and there are snow showers forecasted for western New York and the rest of the Northeast for Tuesday into Wednesday. And right before we have another system that comes through on Thursday and brings us some quick precipitation. So whatever we got falling right now this weekend into Monday into Tuesday, we have another storm to hit the area again. And then on Saturday, the 21st, it looks like we are going to have a similar situation, but this one does not look like to have the strength from the Gulf moisture. So last night, this storm actually looked like it was going to be a repeat of this weekend. And I'm liking what I see on the GFS models, although we do continue to see plenty of moisture falling throughout the country, as it is April, and this is the time of the year for April showers, bring May flowers. We were talking about this earlier today, Maury. You know, how we might just go straight from a winter into just a summer type. Forget about spring. We might see a few days in the 50s and 60s, and then before you know it, it's middle of May, and we start getting temperatures in the 70s. And I know last year, we didn't get our real first 75-degree sunny day. It was late May. I mean, mid-May. So, you know, it's possible that we might see something similar like that this year.
I'm sort of used to not having a spring in Buffalo, though, so what I will know is the precipitation we've received this year. Oh, we've got Radical Gardener. Let me get her message in here. Whoops. Can she hear me? Let's see. Hello. Let's see if she can hear us.
Speaker's muted.
Is her speaker muted? Can she hear us? Well, let's see. This is the joys of live. So let's just get this set up. You could talk about your weather stuff.
But yeah, I know you're used to it here in Buffalo, and I get that. We had a cool spring, I thought, last year. It stayed in the 40s and 50s most of the month of May and April. Like I said, we finally got a warm-up in late May. And, you know, I've lived in Southwest Ohio most of my life, so April is where we start seeing 50s and 60s in early April, sometimes as soon as late March. So for me, it's a little bit of a culture shock, but just looking at this storm system right now and watching the current GFS model, the size of this storm, my goodness. And thankfully, now, I don't know if this is a good thing or not, that small storm that we're going to get.
You're trying to reach is currently unavailable.
I lost her.
Please
Well,
leave a message after.
Wait,
there
here she comes.
We'll do this.
Boo, boo, boo.
There we go. I think she can hear us now. I just heard myself.
Can we put...
Why is Skype freaking out, Jake? Let me call her. You know, maybe I'll have to do this a different way. We'll have to see.
Bear with us, folks. We do apologize. These things do happen. We had Radical Gardener scheduled to come on. We are having some technical difficulties, it looks like.
Skype wants to just...
Skype's been acting weird. YouTube's acted weird. We were checking out some analytical data today on our channel, and it's been practically unavailable for most of the day, if not all day. So things are...
Just message her.
Is currently unavailable.
And
please leave
she
a
might
message
be...
after the beep.
I don't know.
Okay, hit the green button.
No, I know that, Jake.
Third time's a charm?
Crashes. See, it's crashing every time it answers. That's why I'm hoping... She has her video on and we're streaming, so when you're doing this, it really needs to be audio. I'm going to tell her to let me call her.
All right, let's play some GSM trivia.
Why don't you sing everyone a song, Jake?
No, I don't want to sing anybody a song. I'd like to get our guest on, though.
Don't you worry. We'll do our best. Let's try again. Okay. There you are. Let's get you on. Okay. Well, she disappeared. So, why don't you cover some more stuff, Jake? I might have to do something funky with Skype for a bit.
That's fine.
So, you know, go.
I guess go ahead. Put me back on the watch. The actual radar. Yeah, let's do that. Let's just take a look at the radar right now.
Yes, you would like.
Yeah, zoom it out for me one more time. That way we can get the whole nation. Just go hit the back button up there. Or yeah, whatever. That's good. Scroll up. Thank you. So
then I'll work on getting fixed. Okay.
The storm to me is, you know, it's big, it's huge. Gotcha. We're not trying to overhype it, but to see South Dakota, Nebraska, parts of Kansas, some parts of Minnesota, and a far corner of Iowa under a blizzard watch on April the 13th. Very indeed, and lots of thunderstorm, I might add as well. Lots of lightning with this storm. You all know what that means. The influx of cosmic rays positively charging the atmosphere. And I'm telling you, I don't know if you guys been around for these cosmic ray events where we get these lightning storms. But the thunder snow, it almost seems like once you get the lightning, seconds later you get dumped on with snow. Even in the summertime when it's a thunderstorms, we had a couple storms roll through Buffalo last year that I witnessed, and we would get this giant large bolt of lightning, and the rain would just pour down 15-20 seconds later. In fact, Mari and I, we have some footage. Do you remember that? We took some footage last year. We had a really bad thunderstorm roll through, and it's about 20 minutes of footage, and I think, you know, it's a good thing we should probably look at that, because there were some really good examples of once that lightning went off, the big bolt. I'm pretty sure we caught that. The downpour was really impressive, and for this type of weather to be hitting Buffalo, the downpour lasted for quite a bit. Heavy rain, heavy winds. Kind of made me feel like I was back at home in Ohio again, honestly. But just watching here the Weather Channel too, as I'm talking to you guys, and I've noticed that well, they've still got about 15 inches of snow to fall in parts of South Dakota. Now they've already had in places right now 13 inches of snow already. So we're talking about parts of South Dakota that's going to see over 20 inches of snow throughout the state. Impressive numbers for mid-April, that's for sure. So
Hi.
I
know you're burning.
Boy. Well, things happen. We didn't plan for a full-on GSM show. We were going to have the Radical Gardener join us today, talking about just everything, GSM, weather, growing, current events, all kinds of other stuff. Mari's trying something. We might have to put her on a speakerphone here.
Hello?
Now we're going to try this. I'm so sorry. Yeah.
Don't apologize to me. I'm the one that can't.
I don't know. When I answer it just Skype just is like, okay, I'm shutting down now. That is it. So now I have you on my phone. So here, let's, sorry about that, viewers and Radical Gardener.
Hello.
How you doing, Kate?
I'm doing good. It's great to talk to you guys. I listen to your show every single night.
Well, we appreciate that, and we catch your videos too as well.
Didn't mean to do that.
I notice you've got a lot of work going on in your backyard already, and I gotta say, I want to compliment the fence. I love the painting on the fence. That was the first thing that caught my attention.
This thing's going crazy now.
Once you start posting stuff in your backyard, and I realize now that you've been posting videos for a little while. It's not just about grand solar minimum for you. This is just more about getting more in touch with when to plant, how to do it, solutions for how to protect your plants from all types of weather. In other words, I can tell gardening is a passion of yours.
Yeah, it is, and well, I don't know, we might have talked about this a little bit before. I mean, this channel's really morphing, and it's, and I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about. Anybody that has a YouTube channel, it takes a long time for it to really be an extension of your personality. And no matter what it is you're talking about, it's really, you're really front and center doing it. And I've kind of let my guard down now, and I'm just doing whatever I want to do. And, whoever likes it will like it, and whoever doesn't. Sure. But as the weather changes, and hopefully it gets warmer, that's when it's really going to be about gardening. I mean, I'm going to be in the garden all the time, and that's when, you're really solving problems in the moment. Something won't grow. Why won't it grow? If you've got some bad weather, how can you get around that? How can you protect your vegetables? And just being really clever. And as you know, now I'm part of a community. Now my channel's got about 1,200 subscribers. Not a lot, but it's good. It's fine for me.
That's a solid following.
Yeah, it's a really nice community, and we're sharing information. So things I would never think of, people that subscribe to me do, or they tell me about a channel to go watch. So I've not only brought a lot of information to the channel, but I'm really getting a lot of information. So this is what it's all about, you know, is like it's kind of the electronic version of the farmers that are, you know, talking about gardening, you know, over the fence or up at the grocery store, where we really can talk about, you know, some solutions, you know, because I really think this is really about, it's never about fear. It's never about fear mongering. It's like, what are the solutions? Living in the solution. What can we do? How can we grow food? How can we take care of ourselves? You know, and how can we share that information so other people can benefit from it?
Well, that's just it. It's all about sharing the information. And I noticed that, not just, like I said, I've noticed more lately on your channel, you focus a lot on gardening, but you also focus on current events. It's almost like you're trying to touch base. You're trying to keep a pulse on everything that really is important right now, that kind of goes with the big picture of just life.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Just go ahead.
Yeah. So it's really, you know, I mean, if you think that you shouldn't keep an eye on the political landscape when we're looking at the kind of challenges that we're going to be looking at weather-wise, you know, then I think you're just being plain foolish, you know. And I will do whatever I do is going to be done with a sense of humor. And you know, there's already plenty of people out there that are, you know, are full of doom and gloom, no matter what subject we talk about. But you know, just, you know, keeping it light, but keeping it informative, you know. It's who I am, and so I wanted to bring that to the channel. But yeah, we need to know what's going on, and because that's going to inform some of the decisions that we need to make as communities, don't you think? Oh,
well, absolutely. I mean, you know, the new Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, is a strong supporter of man-made global warming, against it, actually. He's anti. So I think it's important that people pay attention to what's going on in politics, because, you know, now we're starting to get people in place in the office where we might get the truth a little bit more. And, you know, so it is important to keep your pulse, or keep a pulse on current events, political, not just weather, but it's important to keep an eye on the shape of the economy. You know, the stock market, that also signals things to come as well. So again, you know, not all channels can do what you do, and you have found a way to mix it all up to where it's appropriate for everyone, in my opinion. I don't leave your channel feeling offended if I'm a Trump supporter or if I'm the other guy's supporter or whatever. So, you know, and that's the key, is it's really difficult for any YouTube channel to talk about politics without offending a bunch of people, because, you know, it's really easy to do that in the land of YouTube.
Yeah, it really is, and there's already, you know, I mean, there's so much bashing going on. I'm not going to be a part of that.
Sure.
That's just, you know, what's that all about? But there, you know, what I like, there's a lot of things that have happened that I really like, and you know, another thing I like is all of the money that was really going to fake science. You know, you know, a lot of that funding got cut, and I am so thrilled about that, you know. So, I mean, there's so much that's gone on that is for the positive. And so, you know, I'm just keeping my eye on that. You know, I got to tell you, you guys, I'm very hopeful. I don't even know if hopeful is the word. There's nowhere in me am I worried. I really believe this can be an incredibly heroic time for communities, for the collective, and for individuals. And this is when mankind can shine, is when we go into a solution-based society, because we have to. You know, we don't change because we're watching Walt Disney movies and there's like bluebirds singing and, you know, the crickets are outside our door. We change and get really busy and really clever when we have to, when we go, uh-oh, we're going to be in trouble here. We better do something about it. And that's when we really become heroic. You know, it's like we have to. You know, so there's there's nowhere in me that I'm worried. Now, maybe I'm being a naive Pollyanna, but trust me, that isn't my nature. My nature is I'm a realistic optimist. And so I really am encouraged with what we can bring to the table and live in a different kind of way.
Well, and I'm becoming a little more hopeful as well. I've noticed here in the Buffalo area, last month we were getting ready to get a pretty decent sized storm, and we were driving around the Buffalo area, and we had noticed that there was a lot of utility companies out cutting up tree limbs near power lines. And as I'm speaking right now, I'm watching live coverage there in Mountainburg, Arkansas, where power lines and roofs are damaged from looks like a parent tornado that just rolled through. But anyway, what was I saying? We were talking about
the power companies being out cutting down the...
Yeah, they cut out the limbs, and then just 2 days ago, we were driving in other parts of Buffalo, and we noticed a bunch more limbs, fresh cut from around tree lines, and here we are looking at a possible of a 1/4 inch to a 1/2 inch worth of ice to be here by Sunday night. So my point of that is that it looks like, I think city officials around the country are now starting to pay attention to these weather events, and they're starting to take better precautions before the storms. That way we're not losing as much power. I'm telling you, we had a really heavy snow event back in March, and it probably should have taken the power out. It did flicker, but I think because of the alertness of the city engineers and them getting out a plan in action to keep some of the infrastructure up, I think that's a lot of the reason why we didn't see as many power outages as we could have seen.
Yeah, I think I agree. There's more and more of it. Well, let's just talk about Detroit. Detroit gets such a bad rap, but anybody that comes to Detroit, and I take them around Detroit, they're always blown away by what Detroit really is. And but if I took you down there and you saw all the urban gardens, you would go, are you kidding me? And not only that, but we had all this open land because they tore down all the of the ghetto. They were cleaning up all the land. I mean, we have so much open land down in Detroit that there's wild pheasant. That's no joke.
Wow.
So people got busy and start putting in urban gardens, right? So what was essentially food deserts is now really big communities, and there's like specific communities. Like I'm going to be interviewing a Native American woman who services the Native American community, and one of the things they do is they have a huge urban garden. So there's so much of that, and many of the restaurants now that are opening up downtown. There are a lot of these kind of pop-up restaurants. They're really funky, cool, trendy restaurants, sort of trendy, but just funky, and they all have outdoor gardens. So I mean, this is in Detroit, and I just want to veer a little bit. There's something you said that really got me thinking, and I did a show on it. You were talking about the whiplash temperatures.
Yes.
And, I started to think about it because, I've been going on and on that Detroit, this area, we're just not getting hit with bad weather, And so I started to look at that in a very amateur way. And I thought, well, is it because of the latitude we're sitting at?
Possibly.
And we're kind of in this kind of cocoon where the Great Lakes protect us, So, and we're far enough south, so we don't have those northern, the northern cooling. So that may all change next year, but just for right now is what I'm dealing with.
Right.
And what I went ahead and looked at snow totals, and it was really hard for me, as I'm sure you're going to relate to this, to get snow totals from the time it started snowing, say in November, until now. That was really difficult to find that information. But what I did find is the same amount of time, like say from January to March, or from whatever it was, December to March, is how much snow on the different latitudes within the state of Michigan. So Detroit was 50 inches. It wasn't a lot. And we haven't had a tremendous amount of snow. We've been cold, but we haven't had a tremendous amount of when you go up, when we're sitting on latitude 42, when you go up to like 44, 45, 46, 47, and when you're up in the UP 49, now we're talking the same time frame that they're like 9 to 15 feet of snow.
Wow.
That's huge. That's a huge difference. So just within my state, you can't, you know, when people say, well, there's a huge storm coming through Michigan, and I always say, I'm telling you, it's not going to hit us that hard, because it never does, you know. And even with the, you know, you've watched the storms move south, right? But we're in this pocket. Even one of the maps you put up tonight, I was watching your broadcast for a while, and you can see that white strip. It was the one that had all the different colors. You see the white strip at the bottom of Michigan, and there's nothing there.
Yeah. You're right. Detroit's in a location where, you know, you have to be feeling the impacts of a wind that's coming directly from the north, because that's where you guys get the most of your snowfall. Really, is your lake effect snows. It's not like
that's true.
Yeah, it's not like you get a lot of systems that come in from the south.
Right. So it'll be interesting to you know, just watch it. And you know, I can see. I talked about this in one of my videos. I can really see why people in Michigan aren't worried about, especially this area and like Ann Arbor and all these places. I can see why people aren't even thinking about, like, that we're moving into a solar minimum, or if there's going to be food shortages. If you walked into the grocery stores around here, I should really do a video. I mean, the shelves are packed with fresh fruit and vegetables. It's organic. I was just in a kind of a high-end grocery store, but I mean, the food was gorgeous, and I thought, where the hell is this food coming from? And, you know, so I can see why people are, you know, really being deluded, because the weather isn't extreme here yet, and we're not seeing the impact of the food shortages. Maybe in prices, they're crawling up. The prices are crawling up now. But it hasn't been this extreme, you know, something is $5 and now it's $10. It's been a slow crawl.
Right.
So I can see why people, it's just not on their radar. I totally get it.
Well, and that's the thing. When you live in it, when you're watching a channel like ours or any other channel that talks about grand solar minimum, and then you're actually living in a region where you're seeing those effects, it's really easy for you to believe. But if you live in New Mexico right now, you're looking at us like, what do you mean global cooling? We're in a fire danger zone. It's extreme heat. You're crazy, buddy. Get your head checked. So, and that's the thing that we've always tried to explain to people from day one when we started this channel, was that this is not a global freeze. This is a regional event. This takes place over many years, and especially these grand solar minimums, where myself, you, our children, we're not going to be around to see the glaciation part of this cycle. And that's just how it works. So instead of like focusing on glaciation and stuff that's going to happen in, you know, anywhere from 80 to 150 years, possibly even longer, and let's think about now and how we can make solutions and how we can adapt to this climate and figure out new ways of producing food.
There's so many solutions. I mean, why not domes over cities? Or why, you know, like, you know, with the cosmic ray flux and with the UVs, why couldn't you have domes over cities, you know? And, you know, maybe the glass will be made out of carbon. I mean, there's people working with carbon, like I'm taking the C60, which is remarkable. I mean, you know, it's like, you know, we have access, you know, to this knowledge, you know, and I'm not going to get into what I think this administration has got their hands on, but enough people that are following all these threads, you know, they do have their hands on a new kind of energy, and it's talked about a lot. And so if that's true, we may be looking at a very different world that we might be surprised by. That may happen like in the next 10 years, you know? So I'm just, you know, I'm not going to pass any judgment. I'm going to let time, you know, reveal what what's next.
And that's just, and that's it. And there's so many. I actually wrote a little blog the other day about that. And from my experience, for what I'm doing right now, what I've learned over the last 2 years, I'm convinced that things are happening the way they're supposed to be happening. That this is going to be a long process. But that being said, time will tell. So instead of people who believe in the global cooling theory, instead of us getting all butthurt about it, we'll let the time do the talking. And the numbers each week, each month, the numbers come out, and they're favoring exactly what a lot of scientists are saying is going to happen by just comparing historical data to now. So I'm with you on that. It's gonna let time do its work right now. Everything else has happened the way it's supposed to. It shouldn't have to be much of a debate. All we have to do is just sit back and watch it unfold. In the meantime, let's think of new solutions. Mari, I know you've been busy running the channel. Are you
kinds of stuff. I'm like
are you
holding the
able
phone
to
and I'm
talk
to
for a
play
minute?
with
I know you wanted to say hello.
Wow. Kate knows I love her. She's so versatile on her channel. She covers not only grand solar minimum topics, growing topics. She has a lot of just well-being, spiritual, just having the right positive attitude. Because when you're dealing with topics like this, it can be a little overbearing. I would say some people get paralyzed in fear because of the unknown, not being able to deal with it. And she gives a great perspective to people that are scared. She's one of the few channels out there that has a very realistic, level-headed preparedness mind to her.
Her best.
You're right. I mean, fear is stagnation, and you don't make great decisions based out of fear. I mean, you just don't. And when you're carrying a message, I just know this because I'm very excitable. So I've learned this. It's been trial and error for me because I used to be so like, oh my God, this is going to happen, because I would put those rockets on my back and so, and I've learned that when you're when I would be hitting people over the head with my message with a big club, it really was driving them away. And they couldn't really take in the information. So now what I do when I talk about solar minimums, if somebody's willing to listen to me about it, I always say, don't worry about it. I say, people live through solar minimums. So it's not like we're all going to die. Actually, what we have in our favor is we're really informed this time around.
Yeah.
And so now we have a chance to make decisions. When you're talking back in the 1800s and the 1600s, when these solar minimums were coming through, they didn't know what the hell was going on, and they didn't know how long, that weather cycle was going to last and what have you. They must have thought they were in hell. But you know what? They lived through it. They lived through it, and I think that we have a much better chance than they ever did.
Well, that's the thing. Think about back then. There was no radar. There was no satellite data. There was nobody to get on the air and say, "Look out! There's a tornado coming," or you've got cold weather coming. Watch out! You need to plant earlier. They didn't have that back then. But you also factor in that the population is a lot larger now. But at the same time, you mentioned domes over cities. Well, even if we couldn't do domes over cities, we could at least try greenhouses and crop fields.
That's right.
And
That's right.
If you can't cover the entire, property, at least where we're growing crops. But then you've got to focus in on energy for running your farm now. There's going to be new challenges. And I think that's just really the biggest thing here about Grand Solar Minimum is that it's all about these brand new challenges because no one in our lifetime or our era or generation have seen these types of conditions before. So
that's right.
It's going to be interesting. You're right. Don't fear. It's nothing to sit around and, get your bunker ready. We're all going to die. But the only thing that does worry me a little bit is some of the weather in spots where they continue to get pounded. Like for us, for instance, we're not used to this much rain up here. And I worry.
You're right.
I worry about the infrastructure, like the sewer lines and everything like that.
No, you're right. There's just some areas, people should not be
No, you're right.
You know, and like, you know, you just gotta move. I mean, it just is what it is. I mean, if I lived on the East Coast, I'd probably move.
Well,
you know, and it's just, you know, I mean, some of those storms that have hit the East Coast, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
And I think they're gonna get worse.
They are. They are.
You know, so
they have.
That's not going to be a great place to live. So, you know, I'm hemming and hawing here right now in Detroit. I mean, having said that, I'm going to go out and look at land in June. I've talked to you guys about that.
Yep.
And I'm going to go out and look at some land and see, you know, I've got a little piece of land, you know, that we're going to check it. We haven't even seen it. But we're going to check that out and see what it is. And, you know, but then, you know, it's in kind of the, I'm looking in kind of outside of Sedona and then, you know, New Mexico. But, you know, what are you going to do for water?
Right.
I mean, you know, I live in a place where there's Great Lakes, you know, and you can't live without water, you know. And so, but I mean, yeah, you know, there some of those places, they do have deep, you know, aquifers. You can definitely, you know, sink a well, but then, you know, we're talking about places where there was a lot of mining, like in Arizona, and that water in the aquifers is really bad. You can't drink that water.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's not simple to decide where to move. And I don't know how smart it is to be in a wooded area when you're going to have these cosmic ray fluxes, and there's going to be a lot of fires.
Yes. Yes.
So, you know, I mean, making these decisions is very, very tough.
It
you have
is.
a lot to consider. You know, how far south do you go? Well, you don't want to go too far south because now, you know, you're dealing with flux that can be, and the UVs that are going to be really extreme. So now how far north do you go? Well, you don't want to go too far
Right.
north because, you know, and then, you know, you don't want to really be in a wooded area and you don't really want to be on a coast. I mean, come on.
Which comes down to what Mari and I have said, and there's no real sweet spot anywhere. You just have to learn to adapt. You just have to make the best of what you got. But you're right, being up here in Buffalo, I think this year, just the start of 18, we've seen so many weather events here, so many flood issues, so many things that's happened up here that's never happened before. It's kind of freaked Mari out a little bit too. But if this continues up here, I mean, we're going to be forced to move south for sure.
Yeah. Well, you know, I think, you know, I mean, there's a lot of people that are, you know, really setting up in Tennessee, which I think is a great area, you know, but, you know, and I think Missouri, but now we're talking about the, you know, the Madrid fault, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you know, it's honest to God, it's like you can't win.
Well, and that's funny that you mentioned that, because Mari and I were doing some research today, and all this heavy rain that is going to be continuing to fall in the same spot is going to be in that fault line area. And that really concerns me when you think about all the pressure from this moisture, this rain that builds up over time. How much more pressure can the ground take before a big earthquake does happen? And this is the stuff that John Casey was talking about in his book Upheaval.
Right.
So you're right. There's no real safe place in my mind. Florida, even this weekend, showed us that they can, you know, they had tornadoes and hail and all kinds of weird looking Jupiter clouds down there this weekend or this week. So it doesn't matter at this point. I think every corner of this United States has seen some crazy funky weather. And I think the best thing we can do now is do what works for us and just try to adapt the best that you can.
Let your intuition tell you where to go. I mean, you know, I did not plan to come back to Detroit when I moved back here from Seattle. I was just going to hang out here for a month, and then we were going to go down to Florida. And, you know, things really took off for us when we moved here. It was, this area just worked for us, you know, and I love the people here. There's nothing better than a Detroiter. This is greatest people in the world. And you know, everything really clicks for us here. You know, and so our intuition is telling us New Mexico, you know, and so we'll go check it out and we'll sit in that for a day and we'll say, how does this feel? This is what I know. You know, I always said, when people say, how do you follow your path? stop second guessing it, and you'll be there when you're supposed to be there. So, you know, you just live in the moment, and I know that's an overused phrase, but it's so true. You live in the moment, and you just, you know, you just are aware of what's going on around you, and that moment leads into the next moment. And, you know, and then all of a sudden I was living in Detroit. I didn't plan that. I'm going to tell you what, I don't plan anything, and my life works just fine. So that's how I will continue to do it. And I've got 70 years to back me up for that. So, you know, that's just how I'm going to continue. You know, you can think about it all you want. I see people analyzing, I should go here, I should go there. Well, how do you know? You know, I'm telling you, there's no guarantees, you know. So you just got to just stay in the moment, and it will reveal itself. All of a sudden, you will be living somewhere else if you're supposed to be living someone else. I know that sounds really woo-woo, but it's how my life has been.
Well, and you know, you say that you don't plan anything, and I find it interesting that your natural flow of life has created things like what we just seen here in this video in your backyard, the gardens, the protections that you provide. And now we're looking at your front yard, and the one thing that sticks out to me right now is I would love to be the guy that cuts your grass, because there's not that much there to cut.
Well, grass is useless. So now, you know, I have to, you know, unless you have sheep, and I don't think anybody in Detroit has sheep. What I'm doing now, and I can't wait to share this. I just can't wait to get out there. I'm going to start getting out there next week. I don't care what the weather's doing, but you know, I can't wait to get out in that front yard and plant edibles, but you won't know they're edibles. I can't wait to do that. That's just going to be a huge experiment to show people that you can have this. Because, you know, when you live in a city, people will object if you have a garden in the front yard, which
Sure.
is stupid. They will. So you can fool it. You know, you can create a really beautiful visual, but all your plants can be edible. So I've got Teresa's, the plant lady, she's a good friend of mine, and I have a bunch of pots in the front yard and window boxes. I'm doing my window boxes and my pots on my porch. It's all going to be edibles. You know, I mean, there's so many flowers that are edibles. Daylilies are edible. Primroses are edible. You know, the nasturtium is edibles. I mean, there's so much that's edibles. And then I'm going to have pots of, like, dandelions and, like, different weeds, you know, quote unquote, that I'm going to grow in pots. You know, and then I have all my herbs. They're going to be in pots and in the ground. So it'll be beautiful, but I can eat everything.
I recently learned, I'm new to all the grow stuff, really. Ever since I started researching Grand Solar Minimum, I didn't really pay attention to natural herbs and stuff like that. And I found it interesting. I found a few videos about this, but wild lettuce is a known remedy for pain relief. And that makes me feel a little bit more relieved, because I know that's something that is easily found. It doesn't take much to find wild lettuce. Just watch a few videos and learn how to prepare it. But so, like, you know, when you say you have hope about the future, how we'll get by, well, this is one of the reasons why I have hope, is because we are living in times where we have access to information to help us thrive and adapt and find substitutes for things that we take for granted every day. You know, I go to my doctor and he gives me a prescription. I go to the store and they give me the drugs that I need. Well, what happens if we get a bad storm and, you know, systems are kind of wiped out for a few weeks? You know, what am I going to do then?
Right. You know, have your books. Definitely have your books that inform you. Have cookbooks. Have books. You know, like been talking about sweet potatoes. You can make bread and everything from sweet potatoes. I've got 2 books now on how to make recipes from sweet potatoes. I mean, really build your library. Have your, like, survival, you know, library. You know, the Foxfire books. You guys interviewed When Technology Fails. I love that book. You know, so I've got all my books, and you know, how to have grow food year-round in a winter climate. I've got those. How to cook with 3 ingredients. I mean, you know, I'm trying to teach myself how to make bread. There's a bread that you make with quinoa, and I can't remember what else it is. And it's just 2 ingredients. It's dead easy to make it, and it's gluten-free. So there's so much of this information, right? And Jake, I don't know if you saw it in the video, but check out the guy's YouTube channel, Learn Your Land. That guy is brilliant. And he just goes out in the woods, he goes to his neighborhood. That guy knows more about weeds and plants and mushrooms that are edible than anyone else I've come across. I mean, he's really kind of a genius. He knows the Latin name for it. He knows the medicinal value. He knows the nutritive value. He's really something else.
You know, I got a friend of mine who lives in Georgia, and he's a bit of a survivalist. And no lie, he bought a new house recently. It's out in the middle of the woods, him and his wife and his 2 kids. And he's around my age. He's 41, 42 years old. And he went out and found him a spot in his backwoods of his property. And it was crazy. This thing was a tree trunk that had been, like, a tree had fallen over. Well, he had turned it into a fire pit and set up a sleeping bag. I mean, this guy is just about sleeping without tents. That's what kind of a survive. He'll cook out in the woods. He's made videos where he's found things to makeshift a grill with and cook his dinner that he caught in the woods that night or something. So, I mean, it seems like nowadays there's more and more people who are starting to pop out on the internet who have those skills, and I'm grateful for that because I could.
Oh yeah, me too. They're everywhere. Did you get caught up in the series that I think was on the National Geographic? Nick Dodge, who lived in the woods in the Pacific Northwest.
No, I heard about it.
Oh my gosh, it's fantastic. It's fantastic. He's a real character anyway. But this guy is just, I mean, he wants to live in the woods, so damn it, he does. And it's pretty crazy to see how he gets by. And he's not a hermit. You know, he goes into town, he's got friends here and there, and he goes see him. He's a social guy, but he likes to live in the woods. But boy, do you learn a lot watching that channel. Well, I'm just so glad you guys are there, and you know, all the people in this community. I mean, I've learned so much, and I just really want to thank you.
Well, we appreciate what you do as well and what you offer to the community. A little bit of let's just say that it's a good thing that there's a lot less testosterone on your channel. I think maybe the information probably comes out a lot clearer at times. I know us testosterone men, we like to get excited about big weather bombs and all that, but it really is, it's good to have people like you in the community. And one more thing before we go, I know Mari was going to try to talk about food to store and have it for a family of 4 for a year. And Mari, you've been doing some research. The first initial project you found was you found a way to get food for your family of 4 for a year for $300, but there's some kind of holes in that right now. And I know, Kate, you said something about finding a method where you can get it for under $800. So Mari.
Yeah, Costco has it. So Costco, it's a family of 4 and it's $800. And one of my subscribers said it was like, that came to $66 a month. Well, that's really affordable. So check that out. If you really want to go, they're called. There's another way to go. The best product I found is Healthy Ranger buckets. I think that's what it's called. And I mean, if you want to go pure organic, it's like nuts and seeds are all hermetically sealed. It's really pristine. There's also that, you know, but that's pricey. I mean, I think that was like $300 for a bucket. But there's a lot of food in that bucket. You know, you can find the other person that's got pretty good deals. I don't watch his show so much, but he's got good deals. Is Alex Jones. I mean, his prices are rock bottom because he sells so much of it. And so he's got some great survival food that comes in plastic containers. It's already all contained and everything. So that's another way to go. Don't forget, it can be as easy as rice and beans.
That's what I was going to say.
And that's what Mari was going to say too.
There's a lot of prepackaged packages out there, and they can run several $1,000s. And I stumbled upon an article that says you can feed 4 people, like this is on a survival basis. You can feed 4 people food for under $300, and it piqued my interest, and I started researching it. And the more I dug into it, I think it's a good starter package. Essentially, it's like a good base, and I'm going to be doing a video on it. It's a matter of getting some 5-gallon food grade buckets, which are pretty affordable. You can call restaurants too to see if you can get them used.
Well, you know what? I'm going to suggest to you, and it's in one of my videos. Go to Home Depot, and they have buckets that seal with removable tops. So there's an outside seal that seals onto the bucket, but the top of it you can open and close. So that is, I would go with those buckets, because if you're going to keep food, you got to make sure it's sealed. And the other thing you want to do is get a big bag. And, you know, you guys, we could talk offline, and I can just give you, like, talking points, like, here's the basic stuff. This is what I would start with. But you want to get that DE, and I can never say the name, diatomaceous earth or whatever it is. But you sprinkle it on top of, because you'll want to package your food, and I'll talk to you about how to do that. You can just put it in really, you know, sandwich bags, big sandwich bags.
They have pretty, like, you can seal stuff as long as you have, like, the oxygen absorbers, and you can actually get Mylar bags pretty cheap, and you just iron
you can do that,
to
but you
seal
don't even
it.
have to do all that. If you sprinkle the DE on top, no bugs will get in there. So, and the DE is dead cheap. It's like a powder. Plus, you can take it. It's really good for you. It's really healthy. So if you did, and again, you know, we can sit on the phone and I can just say, okay, listen, this, and this will really get you started. And the other thing I would do besides the rice and beans is get a couple of big bags and then put them in buckets of like alfalfa, something green. Right? So, you know, so that you can mix it in with the beans and rice. So now you got your greens, you got your starch, you got your protein. You're good.
Yeah.
And get a water purifier. Honestly, that's a really good start. If you have enough for a year, then you can build on
it. Exactly. Yep. There's a great calculator on providentliving.com that you just enter in how many people are in your household, how long you want the food storage for, and they'll actually break down what the recommended diet is in pounds. They recommend for a family of 4 to have 1,600 pounds of grains. That's a mixture of wheat, rice, oats, corn, barley, pasta, 240 pounds of beans, split peas, lentils, you know, nuts, that kind of stuff, 120 pounds of dairy products like powdered milk, cheese powder, having your sugars on supply, different leavening agents like yeast, baking powder, salt, fats, and you know, the recommended water. So that's probably a whole nother show that we could do. There's so much to talk about.
Make your list. You know, have your list. Have your 20 things you really need to have, and just go down it one by one. Like I was saying last week. Well, now I'm dealing with, well, if I've got to do laundry, and if there's no power, right? Well, so there's a great site called Buy It by the Case, and it's free shipping, and their prices are insane. They're great. So like toilet paper, which you might not want to run out of, just thinking, toilet paper, like I think it was 94 rolls, was like 30, was it like $30 or something? Or it was not a lot. It was half of what Costco charges, and it's free shipping. So make your list. Make your list of what you really need to have, and then get that, and get enough for a year, and then build on it. So it's not overwhelming. So what I was going to say about the soap, so I've got Fell's Naphtha soap. It's like $40 for a lot of it. It's in like individual bars. I have a washboard. I have a plunger that I've poked holes in so that that you have suction, just in case I got to throw them in the tub. I got to wash these clothes, and I got to scrub them out on a washboard. So, you know, just, you know, jump some bluegrass band. And I'm good to go. So to be able to do my laundry is going to cost me $40, and I'll have enough soap for a year. So it's just things like that. It's just, I just do it one by one. So guess what? If nothing happens, there's no emergencies, I can always go to the grocery store and buy stuff. Cool. But in the meantime, I have this backup supply, right?
Yeah.
Indeed.
Absolutely.
And there's no harm in having extra.
Nope, not at all. Well, Kate, we really appreciate you spending some time and kind of chatting with everybody, giving us some really good ideas, and your thoughts are always valued as well. And honestly, thank you again. I hope we can do this again so we can kick some more ideas around, maybe sometime closer to the summer months, see how your garden's doing yourself.
Yeah.
That kind of maybe we can get some tips from you as well.
Camera on this summer. We'll have like a garden party.
Yeah, we'll have a garden party.
Yeah, road trip.
There you go.
There you go.
All right.
I love you guys.
All right. Thank you very much, Kate, for joining us.
Thank you. Love you.
Okay, have a good night.
Bye.
All right. Thanks again to the Radical Gardener for joining us tonight on Grand Solar Minimum. Guys, that's going to do it for us tonight. Stay tuned for tomorrow. We will have our update for our current GSM news and weather updates. If there is anything that's serious that needs to be coming over the air as far as breaking news go, Mari and I will be live on Sunday. We're gonna try. Are we gonna try that this Sunday?
This is a new thing that I'm planning on doing, is compiling the weekly headlines that we do every day. I'm going to combine them all together, and then I'm going to stream all the hottest headlines from the full week. Any videos we put out, I'm going to restream live as a weekly recap, and just give it an opportunity for people on the weekend to sort of gather together in the chat and share ideas.
So I think that's a wonderful idea for the community. We've had a few of these live streaming chats and playing replays, and we seem to get a pretty decent response, and a lot of people who are new to the topic could probably use a little more time being around like-minded people who are also following the Grand Solar Minimum and following ways to stay up on what to do in certain situations. All right, guys, where's that mouse at, dear?
I have it
all right
here, darling.
We'll go ahead and sign off again. Thank you all for tuning in and watching our interview with Radical Gardener. Again, please make sure to like and share, and we will talk soon, guys. Thanks for tuning in.